persevering, sticking around, and now, as they say in Las Vegas, the main event. Just let me go backwards in time just a moment. I neglected to thank a couple of folks that have been played key roles here tonight. So a big thanks goes out to Kevin Proteau and the locals supporting locals. As the name implies, it's local supporting locals. They produce a calendar that's available for purchase. And to Brett Voss for his organizational and logistical skills tonight. Summerland Arts Community for the finery, the tablecloths and such. And Martin in the sound booth. Thanks for your magic. So this will be a similar format to the last one. We'll ask each of the candidates to come up and make their opening statements that will run for about 3 minutes each, and then we'll revert to the Q&A piece. We may have a time, we may have some space towards the end of this process to open up the floor mics, so keep tuned in and pay attention to the questions and the responses so we don't repeat each other, but we'll try to get to the floor mics at the end of the session as well. So,
you fooled me. The answer is
one drop.
David Gregory.
thank you. So once again, we'll use a similar process. David's first, and then we'll just go down the table on David's left. So David Gregory, please.
Thank you, Dan. Good evening, everyone. My name is David Gregory. I'm running for the position of mayor. Just to give you a little bit of background, I was the former mayor for 1 term. I was municipal council for 2 terms. I was school trustee for 2 terms. I was on the Union Board of Health for 3 terms. Minor hockey president for a number of years. On many committees and many commissions. I didn't run in the last 2 elections because I had other interests. But recently I have become so disappointed in my community. We've got distorted information about the urban growth area. We've got selected information about the new library. And I feel the same as Doug Holmes. I think that the town has been more polarized now than ever before. When I was mayor, I was the mayor of a very divided council. It's sort of similar to how I feel this community is now. But I was able to make some contributions, I believe, to the community. For example, during my term, we created more parks and more trails than any other council. During my term, we had densification of the downtown core, 4-story and 3-story buildings. And there hasn't been any 4-story or 3-story buildings in the last 6 years. In terms of capital projects, 2 of the most expensive capital projects in our community's history took place during my term: the water treatment plant and the expansion of Thirst Dam. Both projects were on time, on budget. One of the things I was most proud of is I converted our committee system to a system where the public chaired the committees. In the past, the public didn't always chair committees. Sometimes committees are chaired by councillors or even by staff. But I think the most important contribution I think I made was throughout my term there was a large variation of opinions, both by council and public, and those opinions were respected. My platform, I want to restore the importance of public committees. Committees are the public's input into local government, and we need to reestablish that. Probably the most important task of the new council is the hiring of a new administrator. You people can elect the best council we've ever had, but if we have the wrong administrator, it's going to be a long 4 years. So that's really important. I would totally rescind all of the AR application. Rescind means withdraw the application. I would provide information that's more accurate to the public. I don't like disinformation or selected information. I would restore the Parks and Trails enhancement policy that we haven't really seen in the last 6 years. And I would restore the densification policy where we get 3- and 4-story buildings in the downtown core. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Peter Waterman.
Thank you, Dan. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, councillor candidates, and fellow mayoralty candidates. My family's been in the South Okanagan for over 100 years. My wife Claire and I have made our home here since 1976. Our children grew up here, and my wife Claire and I have invested our time, energy, and passion in this community. I wish to see our community grow and prosper, but have it retain the beauty and aesthetics of its rural-urban mix. People are moving here. They seek our lifestyle, the setting, the recreational opportunities, and in our tumultuous world, the safety for their families. The planks in my platform are critical on their own, but they support each other to create a strong launching pad into a healthy future. I will urge the new council to immediately withdraw the municipality's application to remove 200 acres from the agricultural land reserve. This land is key to our rural-urban mix and to considerable business opportunities in the future. We have the land, we have the water. Why on earth would we give up either? As part of this drive to the future, in the first 100 days of the new council, I will initiate a mayor's task force of the business community, our Chamber of Commerce, the arts and cultural community, and the farming sector to combine their ideas and passion to re-energize our local economy. Nobody will do it for us. We must combine our thoughts and experience and make it happen. This will take drive and a long-term commitment by myself, our new council, and community business leaders. Growing our financial reserves to maintain our infrastructure is key to our economic health, and it will be an ongoing effort. It is extremely difficult to upgrade or renovate infrastructure without sources of revenue outside of property taxes. But residential growth does not pay for itself. For every dollar of property tax, costs over time are at the very least $1.20. We now have transit, it must expand. Seniors, students, and working people have created great ridership. It is an important service now and will become even more of a factor for a healthy economy. Under my leadership as mayor, questions and comments for council will move back into the meeting and not happen after adjournment. I would also like to have 10 minutes set aside for public concerns early in the agenda. As far as I'm concerned, there is little point in discussion after an issue is settled by council. I would like to see an expert committee on agriculture and water issues be formed, as well as seniors issues committee of council and a youth committee. We need these connections. And one last comment. To encourage openness and transparency, I will be publishing the sources and amounts of my campaign funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Roche Fortin asked for 6 minutes so that he could speak in both official languages. I told him no. So he's going to do 3 minutes in French only. Roche Fortin.
Be careful with it. Sorry, boy. It's very hard to talk to all of you because I've met some of you, and my name is Roch Fortin. And I moved to Summerland. Unfortunately, I was not born in Summerland, but Left home, my hometown, Quebec City, and when I was 18, and moved to the west to Banff, and moved on to become an RCMP member in Hope, British Columbia, for my first posting. A Frenchman with an H. Sorry about that, guys. Thank you. I moved around all over the country. I moved up, and I enjoyed the work of being an RCMP member. A lot of people ask me why I do have the qualification to become a mayor, and the answer is very simple. I retired when I was an RCMP member for, let's say, 32 years, and moved to different parts of the country. My past 11 years was as an officer in charge, and I ended up in Montreal and border integrity, and moved on to different locations. After that to Yellowknife, where I was the officer in charge, dealing with a lot of issues. The RCMP then sent me to Tracadie, where I learned about all the difficult issues that dealing with fishing, First Nation, and I've been a strong mediator when dealing with some of those issues. I'm a little bit nervous here, but I'm just going to go back on what I stand for. And I stand for moving into Summerland. I moved my family by choice here in Summerland. I think Summerland chose us. We look at Wolfville, we look at Jasper, and Summerland. My wife picked Summerland because we thought it was the best place to live on earth. And we made a route. We established ourselves, start 2 small business, and I think I have a lot to offer in the town of Summerland. Our platform and is fresh, new ideas. I'm new, but I have so many ideas I picked up a different community where I lived, and forward thinking. We have to think about different way to do business. We're looking at recognize the history, the agriculture sector. We thought about something like agricultourism to help out. Economic engine, small business will be the key. Spark initiative, health and wellness. And we have to look at what's going to grow a community in Summerland. And personally, I believe that health and wellness is the fastest growing industry in this country. Business like fitness is another fast growing industry. And I think we can attract young family in this town quite easily by building a strong base in order for them to live here, and the quality of life that we have will sell the town itself. Thank you.
Right. Merci beaucoup. Orv Robson.
Thank you very much, Dan. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight and listening to the candidates. It's important that you're well informed and receive hopefully some factual information about what's transpired and what's hopefully being transpired in the future. My name is Orv Robson, and I am proud to be a mayoral candidate in the November 15th municipal election for the District of Summerland. I'm passionate about Summerland, have faith in our future, and would be honored to serve as your mayor. I've lived in Summerland since 1992 with my family, having transferred here with the RCMP as the Summerland Detachment Commander. I retired in 2004 and have remained active in our community. I am committed to Summerland and will continue taking an active part on community boards such as the Parkdale Place Housing Society and the chairman of the Summerland Charity Shop Society, or Penny Lane. I belong to local clubs with memberships in Rotary, Masonic Lodge, Summerland Golf Course, Royal Canadian Legion Branch number 22, and the Summerland Sportsmen's Association. The past 3 years that I have served as a councillor with the district, I have had many challenges and many rewards, and it has been a great experience. I am progressive. Summerland's prosperity is vital. Our community needs to keep moving forward, and to prosper we must attract young people, families, seniors, and businesses. This means having entry-level lots for young people and families to build their homes on, more senior citizens housing complexes, and a busy downtown core for business to thrive right here at home. I have enjoyed the challenges immensely. I am proud of many accomplishments such as the bus service to Penticton, holding tax increases to a minimum, city staff restructuring, and increasing financial reserves. I will work towards obtaining grants for water separation and road upgrades, partnering with the farming community, citizens, and the Agricultural Land Commission using smart growth guidelines, extend sewer connections, increase business vitality and employment. I have management skills, budget administration experience, and leadership abilities with respect to conflict resolution and labor relations. I have high ideals, integrity, energy, proven leadership skills. I am realistic, calm, capable, and consistent. I pledge to invest my energy, time, knowledge, and abilities to be an effective mayor. I ask for your support. Elect Orv Robson for mayor on November 15th.
Thank you, Worth. Christopher Boisvert. Thank you. I had Papadopoulos in the palm of my hand.
Oh joy. Nobody really likes to be up in center stage and to talk, but I'm one of them. He's turned on the extra lights. My name is Christopher Boisvert Gilman. I was born a Gilman. My grandmother was Mrs. D. Gilman up in Gilman Road and Bennett Road here in Summerland. She moved here in '48. I followed when I was 12 years old, but later I came back when I was able to live on my own, and that was in 73, 74. I think it was 74 actually. So that would be 40 years ago. But whether I lived here or not is not the issue. It's what I see and what I do if I'm elected as mayor. I'm set apart from, I think, some of the processes that have been going on. I didn't put up signs. Well, let's go back. I went out and asked the people on the streets whether I should run as a mayor or whether we should retire some councillors. And the answer was 80%. And I mean, I went and I gave a penny and I said, a penny for your thoughts. Now you might ask, why would I do this? Well, in 1974 when I came here, I saw a unified community. But shortly thereafter, Century House happened. And if you don't know Century House, you don't know about arts. Because the arts were going to be going into Century House. That was the idea before it was torn down. Now, I don't have much time, so I throw that out. My key thing here is this. We need unity. We've got 8 different groups, distinct groups here, that are divided and put against each other. You could talk about all the different plans on how to put the business core together in this town, but quite frankly, nobody's going to go downtown if the downtown is not a part of their dream or their idea, if you're not involved with it. So we need to agree to disagree. We need to find common ground, and then we need to build on that common ground. We need to have a Summerland First. Summerland First policy. If we send our money to Kelowna, guess what? They spend it in Kelowna. There's a lot of things that need to be discussed. There's not enough time in 3 minutes. What I suggest to you is a couple of things. I'm really happy you turned out to this one. I would even suggest the next one, because you're going to find a different approach. Remember, my name's the longest name on the ballot. I work at 7-Eleven from 11 o'clock tonight till 7 in the morning. Yes, I'm a graveyard worker, and I just ask that you consider supporting a new and different approach. I have no signs, I have placards. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it just me, or has anyone else noticed the irony? There's two former RCMP members sandwiching these three chairs. All right, we've had some conversation. We've agreed that some of the questions from the last session are very applicable in this round. So while you may have heard the question before, the answers hopefully will take on new nuances. So we'll have a go at that. And I think we'll replicate the last process as well, David. So we'll start with you and then just move down the left of the table. This question is, what difference do you hope to make once elected as mayor?
Difference? In terms of goals, I think one of the more important ones to me is more public engagement, improve our public committees. I think that's a really important goal. One of the goals of this council that I really support is the cultural plan. Right now we're looking at a draft cultural plan. That's long overdue in our community, and I'm actively involved actually in that plan. At CCDC, we developed the cultural plan and we submitted it to the district, and I'm really anxious to work with that more. A cultural plan would establish an identity to Summerland, and that's really important in terms of making our town more attractive and more interesting. How much time I got? I've got lots of things I'd like to do. One thing I want to do at the last, sorry?
15 seconds.
Oh, geez. One of the things last time I didn't get accomplished was an agreement with the Penticton Indian Band. I'm really anxious to do an agreement, and I want to do it in both languages. So that's a really important goal for me. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate a minute is a long time to meander. Peter Waterman, what will you do to support local business in the downtown core?
Thank you, Dan. I guess I stated it in some of my platform comments. I have some personal ideas, but I feel that we need to bring the community together, and that's why I've spoken of a mayor's task force. I want to see what everybody else has to say. I want to see people from the development community, the real estate community, downtown business, Chamber of Commerce, the arts community, and the farming sector, all brought into one large room, representatives or people who are interested, hear what they have to say. We need to cross-pollinate those ideas. We've seen through some of the public forums some tremendous talent, some tremendous interest and passion, and we need to bring those together. One good example locally is, in a small way, is the success of Bottleneck Drive. I think we need that kind of synergy throughout the community to assist the economy and make it healthy.
Thank you, Peter. Roche, this question is about why has Summerland only grown 1% in the last 10 years? What are some of the issues behind that?
Asking a question that someone arrived in Summerland 4 years ago. We moved to Summerland because we said the quality of life. I personally think, and I know people will disagree with me, we're looking for negative, but I personally look at downtown right now. We have the two grains, we have the quilt shop, we have the chocolaterie, we have Maple Rock, and we have, I think I see some positiveness growing. And me as my family choose Summerland because the quality of life, the lifestyle, the outdoors. And I personally think, you know what, that trend will change. I think that trend is already changing, personally. And we have to build on the positiveness and the success of people. And if we bring positiveness and enthusiasm, I think that growth will double and triple in no time. And I think we need to work together, and I think we'll make it a great, great town to be in.
Thank you, Roche. Orv, what's your vision for Summerland over the midterm and long term? So project 5-10 years down the road.
Sustainability. Right now, and our growth rate since 1996 has been 0.5% a year. not 1%. So sustainability, we can't sustain ourselves with that type of growth factor. We have to grow, and to grow, we need to bring in families, and we have to adopt challenges that will enable us to meet the demands that are being placed on us as taxpayers. And right now, 80% of the tax base comes from the resident, and 80% is put back on you to make sure that our infrastructure carries on. And I just think that to do that, we have to continue to grow. I've been around this province in working capacity. I've seen what happens in communities that flourish, and growth is what makes communities flourish, and we have to have growth. Sorry.
Thank you, York. Christopher, do you consider arts and culture important in Summerland? And if so, how would you, or what funding mechanisms would you look to?
Well, it's an interesting question because I brought up Century House. First of all, Century House could have been a home for 40 years for the arts and culture. It's not. That being said, when are we going to get a place for the arts and culture that's permanent, that's not going to be moved on? I'm wearing a button that says Arts Matters. And, you know, it just, to me, I think the thing is that we've got to approach it in a positive manner. We have to sit down, and if we pull the people together so that we're discussing as a community on what we want for the arts, then the funding will come about. I can talk to you about, oh, well, we can apply for grants, we can apply for funding. It's like applying for the grants and the funding for the Garnet Valley. Forget it. It may eventually happen, but I live out in Garnet Valley. We're going to have a big hole by the time it gets filled in. Why not take the $60,000 that the council gave to improve the beautification of the library and put it towards $60,000 towards an arts building, or towards something that fix the roof in the arena? I mean, there's a ton of things. Is that the end of the time? Oh.
It's not the end of time, it's the end of that. I'm going to shake things up just a little bit. I have a question here that I think is applicable for all of them to approach. So this question is asking, so we'll go around from David around the table, as it were. If elected, would you be supportive of reinstating the position of Economic Development Officer? Or, I guess, do you think Summerland's large enough to support an EDO?
I was asked this question earlier. I think right now, I don't think we can afford that position. But one thing that's sadly lacking in Summerland is someone to explore grant opportunities. This is something we haven't done, well, I don't think we've ever done it really, where we had a staff member look at grant application and grant opportunities, and we've missed so many chances of getting grants. So I think that part of it, which is part of the job description of an economic development officer, I would accept and agree to.
Thank you, David. Peter?
Thank you, Dan. We had an EDO here in Summerland a few years ago. Unfortunately, he wasn't performing the job as the council required, and the council of the day, which I was not on, decided that they would not have that position. I think we have to remember that the Chamber of Commerce does do a considerable job, but economic development is not one of them. And so council will have to work with, as was just said a minute ago, see what our budget is like, see what we can do, and look towards a day when perhaps we can, but have an EDO. The thing is, each small community has an EDO, and perhaps we need to look beyond that and see, can we have a regional EDO that will satisfy each of the communities. It's a very expensive position, and it's difficult to retain somebody, especially as we've just gone through a recession. So I would hope that we could do something in the future, but we have to consult business leaders and so on and see whether this will be the answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Rob?
Well, I would like to do that job for $1 a year. As a mayor, I think it's a role and responsibility of the mayor to become that driving force to bring new business and bring new ideas into this town. I think the mayor should be the greatest ambassador to go up there and not to be afraid. In my past position as an RCMP member, I met so many different businesses, different communities, and there's so many ideas that we can share. And just to give you an example, why not do a microeconomic exchange between the Acadian Peninsula, seafood and exchange of fruit? There's so many good ideas that we can bring, but I believe the mayor could be the economic driver, not to do a job, but he could be the greatest ambassador to trade show or to other places and sell the value. If you're proud of where you live and you're proud of what you're doing, I think it should be so easy to bring people here to Summerland. And I'll do that job for, let's say, $1 a year, and I'd be more than happy to represent you all over the country. Thank you.
So that's Raj Polkan speaking in favor of a livable wage. Or, same question.
And that was,
Sorry, and I filed it. The question was, are you in support of an
economic
EDO?
development officer. As Councillor Waterman indicated, we had an economic development officer, and the previous council released him. I look back at that, and I think, you know, it was the sign of the times. We were in a recession. There was very little movement in growth. There was very little movement in industrial growth as well, and so consequently it was difficult to bring business to our community. The economic development officer has to have the tenacity to go out after that business, and he has to have the area to put that business into. There are companies that want to come to Summerland, however, the facilities that they want aren't available to them. So I think there's a need for an economic development officer. Right now, I don't think that's the case.
Thank you, Rob. Christopher.
First of all, it's been pointed out they are expensive. Second of all, that they sometimes work and sometimes don't. Third, we're depending on one individual. That's not what Summerland's about. We have resources. It was brought up at the candidates meeting for the councillors. We have resources. I propose this, a community component working group. Now you say, what's that? Well, besides being a mouthful, what it is it's getting the people who are directly involved in the 8 distinct groups that I mentioned, the seniors, the youth, the business, the developers, the agricultural, the tourism, those 8 groups, I think I'm missing one, arts is one of them, getting them together and working together and coming up with a plan economically beneficial for this community. If everybody buys into it, there's a good likelihood it'll work. If you have one person doing it, there's a good likelihood it will not.
Thank you. I'm going to ask one more round of questions, then I'm going to open the floor mic, so get your thinking hats on, and remember my earlier comments, be on point, concise, and respectve, and we'll have an open exchange. So David, this one's for you. In order to attract young families to Summerland, both jobs and affordable housing are required. What's your plan to attract that demographic?
In terms of affordable housing, I disagree with the plan about using the old RCMP station land for affordable housing. I think that's an ideal spot for multi-story residential property. I think there's other areas in the community where affordable housing would work better. In terms of improving the businesses in the downtown core, I think making our community more attractive is important. Tax incentives is something that we should be exploring. I don't believe council's looked at that very much. I think tax incentives where there's deferment in property taxes for new businesses would be something to be looking at. And in terms of downtown core, especially for businesses, it's so important that it's convenient for the customer. We have to ensure that we do not lose parking stalls on our downtown core. That's critical to the success of businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Peter, this is the question around municipal arts funding. Do you believe in a per capita formula, or do you envision some other methodology of funding?
Thank you, Dan. Right now, there's not nearly enough funding for the arts or the museum. So we have to consider how that's going to be done. And of course, per capita is one way of looking at it. But per capita, it's just how much are you going to do per capita as to what you're going to raise. So you have to come up with some sort of idea as to what you require. And then you can look at per capita. Other than that, you have to say, okay, well, what can the budget handle? Can we refocus the budget to look more closely and be more supportive of arts and culture? And I think we need to. I happen to think that arts and culture could be the thread through the fabric of this community that can hold it together and expand it and create tremendous opportunities for business. I see arts and culture as being critical to many areas. We can use, for example, the 30-odd thousand people that go through the KVR. Perhaps there's a route there we could be showing our art and culture in that area. Same thing with Summerland Suites, 35,000 people go through there. We've got to combine our efforts and create some synergy.
Thank you, Peter. Roche, this question is asking you to share your vision for our Lower Town or Lakeshore area.
Well, this every day, like Aaron mentioned, I go by this area all the time. I believe it's a huge important tax component that we're missing on the Lower Town. I think that we can redevelop this entire area, and it's my understanding there's some people looking at it. There's some people already purchased the old cannery, and there are some very interesting proposals to put on. I think we have to make sure that the entire area is used to its maximum, and I can see a huge source of revenue for the town of Summerland when we have places that are not fully utilized. And looking at I can see that if we can have a hotel, urban winery, or a cidery, and maybe we can attract also art or other component to it to sell that area of our town. Because I think it's a huge tax loss for us right now, but we need to attract those investors in our town and make them feel welcome to invest.
Thank you, Or we're back to the Garnet Valley again. When are we going to pave those roads out there? Or more largely, I guess perhaps you could tell us about the process that takes us there.
Oh, that was my last council platform, was Garnet Valley, and I still look at Garnet Valley as needing improvements. We've gone to the province and we've asked them for funding to help us upgrade that. We've asked for it again this fall. We met with the Premier at UBCM, and we have assurances that we will be receiving funding through the gas tax granting. We are looking seriously at that being our next major project. We not only have to do, it's the twinning that we have to do more so than the road needs repaired, but we might as well do the twinning at the same time. And we want to take domestic water out there as well. So that's the key that we're looking for right now. And I can only say that that's our priority right now. And we are looking at doing that as soon as we can get the grant funding, and I'm hoping that'll be shortly.
Thank you, Orv. This is my last question, so that's your cue to start thinking about what you might want to engage these folks in. So the last question, or my last question rather, goes to you, Christopher, and what's your sense of vision for Summerland over the medium and long-term range?
United.
We're not talking football, are we?
No. I mentioned about Summerland and about the roads. Here's my thought. You got $60,000 that went to the library beautification that already had plans for beautifying. They spent 15 years preparing for this. Why not buy a $40,000 asphalt paving machine, put it at the school, let them learn about how to use it, turn around and have a summer, a practicum in the spring, and in the summer put it to work. Not on Garnet Valley, and we mentioned Garnet Valley. What about some of the other ones? I drove all the roads last month. Eileen, McDougall, Washington, Blair, I can name a whole bunch more that are 1 block, 2 block long that can be dealt with. Now the thing is that we need to be creative in our thinking. So I hope that what we find out of this election is creativity, Summerland first, and once again, united.
Thank you. I'm going to turn the mics over to you folks. So not seeing a stampede. Just make your way up to the front. Either mic is active as we speak. While we're waiting, let me remind you, there is another forum November 4th. These folks have been busy responding, and the council candidates have been busy responding to questionnaires in the Review, the Arts Council, the Herald, the Chamber. So there's lots of information with which you can be armed for ballot day. Avail yourselves of that. Sir.
I'm Mark Donkers. I live in Summerland for about 1.5 years. First, thank you for coming here tonight and trying to answer all these difficult questions. I have another difficult one. At least I think so. Summerland has one of the worst sprawl of any community in BC, I understand. And to me, personally, that's a major concern. If I'm 85 and I drive my wheelchair to the beanery, I'd like to not be flattened by many pickup trucks, or at least minimally would like to see lots of kids jumping around, playing safely in the streets, and not always requiring the parents to drive them anywhere they need to go. So, what will you do to stop a reverse sprawl in Summerland?
So the question is, what will you do about the sprawl?
Yes.
And is it directed to anyone, or would you like to direct it? Or?
I'd like to direct it to them all, whoever has the greatest idea to answer my question.
Okay, thank you. David, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Part of our sprawl is inherited because our community started at the far end of Garnet Valley. That's where it started. The next place it started was the far end of Prairie Valley, and then it started in Lower Town. The newest district lot in Summerland, is right here. It's District Lot 3640, and the reason it's the newest district lot is this is the old Indian Reserve here. All the rest of the town had already developed, and this was still reserve land. So this became a district lot in 1906. So some of those roads that are way out there, they're our first roads. Okay, but how to stop sprawl now? The key thing is densification downtown, and that's one of my main priorities is to do that. So when I was mayor, we did a densification policy, and if I'm elected, I'd like to reestablish that policy of densifying downtown, supporting our local businesses, and preventing sprawl. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go around the horn.
Oh, okay. Am I fine? One thing we have to remember about Summerland, it's a district municipality, which means it's large and it has a large land area. And we also have a relatively small downtown core. But in order to serve the entire area, we need a road network, water network, and so on to do that. But we do have to, and I've repeated this a number of times, the best way to make sure that you're dealing with your infrastructure in the core is to put more users on that infrastructure. In other words, densification, more units per acre, etc. And we're doing that with carriage houses. Some of the lots are being split up. Most of Summerland, or all of Summerland, of course, was on septic tank at one time. So we had large lots. Now we're on sewer, and we can put many more houses on the same pieces of land because we have sewer. So densification is key, and that will slow down any sprawl.
Thank you, Peter. Paul?
Well, my road needs to be fixed also, I understand what you're saying. Where I'm looking at it, I think the downtown core can gain a lot more space. I'm talking about spaces like maybe possibly an office building that can attract people. We need an apartment building downtown core also. I think we have to start looking at building our downtown in such a way that we can bring revenue and we can keep and maintain what we have existing. We should not build more. I think we should make sure that maintain what we have, but we definitely need to bring some source of revenue in order to maintain those roads. And I personally, I agree with David and everyone else on this. I think that if we can bring a lot of density in a downtown apartment building for people, rental, what about bringing an office building where we can bring individual and bring a lot of taxes revenue that will help us to maintain what we have and just grow accordingly.
Thank you, Ed.
How do we stop sprawl? Well, sprawl costs us a lot of money. It's hard to service those areas. It's difficult managing the road systems. So we have to work closer to the core. We have almost 4,000 acres of farmland in Summerland. Of that 4,000 acres, it's taxed under number 9 taxation bracket, which provides us with 0.72% tax base. That 0.72% brings us $47,000 in taxes. We have to have a little bit more of a balance to allow us to survive and to sustain ourselves. That 0.72% tax base isn't doing it for us right now. Now, I'm not saying that we have to take a lot of land out of the agricultural land reserve, but we certainly have to look at it as being a potential growth area. We have an area to the north, or pardon me, to the west on Prairie Valley, which is going to be put back into the agricultural land reserve. There's people who want to farm it. We've got land in the core that can be used to grow over the next 50 years, and that's what this official community plan that's before the Agricultural Land Commission now permits us to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Just before Christopher takes his go at this, I was advised earlier that this would be a very difficult session, and I just want to say how charming you've all been. So, thank you. Christopher.
Well, I'm glad you touched on the OCP, something that has been touched way too much. And I think my fellow on the left here would agree with me on that. You know, I studied urban geography when it first came out at the University of Guelph, and what we discovered is that you have to plan. And when you have a plan, then you have to stick to the plan. And I don't see that happening. In fact, to go back to the road thing that you brought up, I don't see a plan for the infrastructure of maintaining the roads. As for the sprawl itself, I have some issues when Trout Creek goes to and I spoke at this, Trout Creek had a development that's just gone into place, 69, I believe it was 69 lots, of which my question was, are you going to have carriage lots? The answer was yes. So we weren't talking about 69 homes, we were talking double 69. And, you know, this is not, if you're going to have infilling, then don't just say, we're going to have infilling. You have to plan it. You have to have it so that you say, the houses cannot be 8 to 12 feet wide. Literally, I've seen that. Where I lived down in Mission before, there was a 12-foot wide house put in beside a wonderful, huge, old house,
Time.
heritage.
Appreciate your passion. Time. Time for one more question from the floor.
Hello, my name is Vicky Lightfoot, and I've been in Summerland for about 20 years. I just have a question for each one of you. Is it absolutely necessary to take land out of the agricultural land reserve in order for Summerland to grow? Is that a prerequisite, that we have to do it that way? Is that the only option that we have? Thank you.
Yeah, let's
One-word answer, is that allowed? No,
let's try that.
It shouldn't, agricultural land should be preserved. And the trouble when you start doing that, it weakens the pressure to go to the hillside. We cannot allow that type of thing to happen, because then we'll never get hillside development. That's where we have to start. So I'm fully against any agricultural land being removed.
I probably shouldn't even have to answer this one. I am definitely... I think I've got
Thanks, Peter. George?
Thank you, Dan. I've got a pretty long history, probably going on now well over 40 years, through an experience in my profession, as well as my time on council, of advocating for agricultural land and the bonus that it'll bring to us, especially in Summerland. And I don't think it's necessary at all. To look at growth briefly, we have data from our own planning department, even a minimum use within our Seward area, there's enough potential lots for 8 years of growth. Outside the ALR, 12 years of growth. We've got enough without actually accessing ALR land for 22 years of growth, and that's not considering potential multifamily in the core. With that, we have potential of 32 years of growth. So we certainly don't need to touch ag land. It's more of a bonus to keep it and use it to our advantage. Thank you.
And I'm sure everyone wants to know my position on the agricultural land. Been a small vineyard owner myself, and my position on it is clearly no switching the land at this present time. I did some research, look at the research, and interview a lot of town personnel, and even went with a land developer that was extremely knowledgeable, and they said it did not make sense, and there's a lot of things that we're not aware, we're not able to answer the question. But my issue is, I'm with Mark Smith. I think we cannot say no forever. Maybe we may have to, maybe. But you know what? Right now the answer is no. And we need to develop secondary industry for the agriculture sector in order to survive and become extremely valuable land, and the farmer can make a living. And I'm looking at like agritourism, for instance, which is a huge thing back east that can bring a lot of revenue to a farmer. Like means, you know what? I think we can grow with the farming community, we can help the farmers, and we can do very good to preserve the land. I agree with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Ort?
Well, I'm a farm boy from Saskatchewan. We've got lots of land back there, still do. The farming community here is very important to us, and I love it here for that reason. But there has to be a balance, and our demographics right now show we're dying because we're losing our young people. Our school system, I just jotted down some figures here. In 2000, we had 1,751 students in our school system. Right now, we're down to 1,294 students registered in 2013. That's down 30%. Now, if I look at the cost of buying a house here in Summerland, and the cost of a lot roughly are $100,000 more than anywhere else in the Okanagan, why would I come here as a young family? Why? To to buy a $100,000 lot or a $100,000 more house than I can buy in Penticton or Peachland or West Kelowna. We don't have, when I came here in '92, our policemen all lived here. My detachment all lived here. Now, we've got 4 living here out of the 9. And they can't afford to live here, so they don't live here.
Thank you. Or, please.
Okay. Rock, I'm going to quote you, "This present time." I'm sorry, I disagree. It's the agricultural land. Once it's paved over and we start growing houses, there's no going back. And do you want to get your stuff from countries that don't have our standards? I was an orchardist in a vineyard up in Okanagan Landing up there, and up on Shoot Lake Road. I can't remember the name of the road. Anyway, the point is that the farmer had DDT, and he said, "Chris, go out and spray." I said, "No." He says, "Yeah, it's okay. We have a weevil problem. Spray." I lost my job. I had a young family, but that was okay. God had a plan. I got hired at the Summerland Research Station. So, you know, we have to, and it says on my leaflets, it says, take a stand for something or fall for anything.
So a big round of applause for the mayor candidates. A big round of applause for yourself. Thank you very much. And don't forget November 4th, and certainly don't forget to vote on the 15th.